Can you paint the battle itself? 313 here, 1,000 plus here, 2 horses here, and you said like 200 horses?
100 horses.
Okay, 100 horses.
On the other side. Well, any historian would say, or war expert would say, no way that 300 people will win a battle against.
Why's that?
That's our think. Our thoughts about clans. You got that amount, 3 people against 3 times people against 1 time, and you got weapons all at full stage, all at modern weapon at that time against nothing. Absolutely nothing. You got 100 horses against 2 horses, so the power is
so an organized army.
Expert
army.
Yeah. With strong arms. I mean, let's talk about, like, I mean, comparing this to football. If you have 2 different teams, and one is, like, say, a very strong football team. Let's say Brazil was playing against, I don't want to say a particular country. Like, let's say like a weaker country in the sense of football. And you bring those like 3 guys from this other team, and you bring Brazil to fight them. To play the game. And basically, you could see that it's obvious that the Brazilian team will obviously win. Like,
can we try to tackle you?
I don't play football.
Do what now?
If all 3 of us want to tackle you, do you think you can take us on?
Wallahi, I think I'll jump from this mountain.
Well, don't account me because I'm not really in a good situation.
Well, again, going back
to the battle. Yes. In our normal thoughts, no, it's not. It can't happen that Muslim will win. But the Prophet ﷺ, he could ask Allah that he wipe them off without even a battle. But he wants to teach us, as Muslims who are coming today, that we should take reason. Get army, get weapon, get planned, get yourself ready, and then after you finish all these, get your trust in Allah. First and before, that you don't just put your trust in Allah and you say, oh well, there is Allah, will do everything for me. That's absolutely forbidden.
So it really has nothing to do with arms. The miracle is not really the arms part, because according to my understanding of what you were saying, and Dr. Yasser is saying, Brother Rayyan here, is that you guys are telling me there's a miracle, and the miracle is more humanistic than just arms.
No, I think the miracle here, let's point this out, as in the ayah in the Holy Quran. I think this is, we should point this out. I think this is a very important message. Is in the Holy Quran, as in Surah number 13 and ayah number 122, Allah has revealed, this says as I quote, "And God did certainly assist you at Badur. When you were weak, be careful of your duty to God. Then that you may give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." And this shows that the support came immediately from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in waging this war. If I don't want to say that there were reporters there at the time to take pictures and of what happened, but basically it was their reports that there were white swords fighting with the Muslim, even the mushrikeen who were fighting the war. They started backing up. They're saying that there's somebody else who's fighting as other than the people around them. So there's something else that's happening, superficial.
It's actual. Sometimes you feel the presence of something
strong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the time sent...
The cause was just, though. I mean, I'm still thinking of things from an illogical point of view.
Okay.
Like Allah Almighty is supporting that battle not because people were just waging a war.
Absolutely.
It was a just cause of returning people's things. Am I correct?
Which is protecting the Prophet
and protecting the Prophet and as you mentioned earlier, the reason for war not from the Muslim side, it was from the unbeliever side. So they came asking for war. So
I like that. So they're asking for war, because this is what confuses me in today's age when somebody talks to me about that we're always hostile. I never understood that. I never saw Prophet Muhammad hostile even more. So can you please elaborate more on this?
Well, even he himself, when he knew that the unbeliever of Quraysh are coming, he asked his companion, will you go into the war or shall we go back to Medina?
Consultation.
Consultation between him and his companion. And he knew that the immigrants from Mecca would have probably have supported him, or non-support him, whatever. But he didn't only take their opinion, he took opinion of Al-Ansar.
But it's also the aggression of Abu Jahl. See, the thing is, Abu Jahl, when he heard about this, that there was some attack on the caravan, and even though the caravan was there to be on attack by the Muslims, the first thing that came to Abu Jahl and the people there in Mecca, who hated the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, they came and said, we're going to have this as a party. This is going to be our victory. And this is how they thought of it. It's the arrogance that brought them there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected. It was legitimate for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the Prophet of Allah. As he said,
what I'm trying to say is that not
they were French
just because we're Muslims, we just launch wars right and left. There's no support from Allah unless there is something that is just.
If you look at Badur, Uhud, Al-Khandaq, think about it. Who started the war? Badur? Them. Uhud, they came to Medina. Obviously, the Prophet ﷺ was in Medina. Right? And they came to Medina. If you come to me, to my place, I'm going to defend myself. Exactly. I'm going to defend myself.
Even during the war itself, I mean, let's talk now about the actual battle. I think this is where we should come to the point and talk about the actual battle and the scenario of the battle. See, the thing is, if you're watching the battle from here, and you're seeing who's doing the actions, it was the kuffar, mushrikeen, who came with the drums, hitting with the drums. They're talking about a big party. Let's drink and enjoy ourselves. And
so let's kill some
let's kill them. Let's punch them and show who's the powerful here. And basically, when both armies they met at the battlefield, actually as we said, Shayba and the Utbah and
individuals
came and said,
this was the way of war.
We want to, this is the way when this started.
Actually, three Medinian, they came out and they showed them that they want to have the battle with them.
So we didn't start the fighting.
They said, no, we don't want Medinian, we want our tribe. Get somebody from Mecca. It's a revenge, and they want one-to-one.
So it wasn't in their mind between Islam, like these people that ran away, we're going to get them back.
Run away from our tribe, we'll get them back and we'll show them.
It's sort of like the Puritan faith during the medieval period. The Quakers ran away and the Puritans or the Christians killed them. It's a sort of the similar way in here, or this topic. However, going back to what Dr. Ahmed said, the Muslims needed a cause to fight the war. So Prophet Muhammad asked
about the support, that Allah Almighty supported a just cause. It was not just a battle.
Absolutely. And I think we just also mentioned that even the people of Medina, the Ansar, I mean, they weren't even involved in this. You're talking about people who accepted Islam as a religion, and they weren't even involved in this war. This was like a war between the people of Mecca who came to Medina and the actual people of Mecca who came to fight them. And the thing is, as you said, the usual situation when the armies meet and they start the fight, they recall the three soldiers or three knights come out and say, who would like to fight us? The first three who came out for the Muslim army was from Ansar.
Yes.
They were from the Muhajirin. And this shows how the people of Medina who accepted the Islam, and this is really...
So actually, even the treaty they took with the Prophet with Al-Aqaba, we're talking about this later, they should protect the Prophet as long as he's in Medina. Once he's out, the treaty was not involved, something like that, yes?
Yeah, and Prophet Muhammad, I guess, was worried about this
and
aspect.
That's why he asked that question 3 times. What do you think about going into war? And the Muhajirin, the migrant was telling the Prophet, yes, we'll go into it, yes, we'll go into it, yes, we'll go into it. But he asked the question again, meaning you, the Medinian, tell me your answer. So Sa'd ibn Mu'az, the head of the Medinian, he understood the message, and he said to him, go anywhere and we are behind you. If you crossed the sea, we will cross it with you. We will not tell you what, as the Jew told Musa, go, you and your Lord fight, and we will sit here. No, we'll tell you, go on your Lord fight, and we will be with you.
That's the stand that should be taken.
So all of them give the pledge to the Prophet ﷺ, yes, go ahead, they come to fight us, we will defeat them, inshallah, we will stand until you will not go back to Medina until all of us beaten or defeated, until all of us will die.
as an educator here, Dr. Wahid, and this is just my nature as a person who's in the field of education, and Dr. Yasser, we were talking about this on the way here from Medina. The thing that we were talking about, brother, is that this was not only a war against aggression, a war against oppression, it was also a war against ignorance. That from the time of that the education took a very firm and strong stand. And you can elaborate more on this because we spoke about this earlier.
Yeah, probably we'll talk about it slightly later in the program because that is when the prisoner of war, for
We
example.
can talk about the aftermath of the war before.
Let's go back to
The commander-in-chief of Quraysh, which is Utbah, basically is the one who started the war with asking those three guys. So basically, Sayyidina Hamza was also the commander-in-chief of the army of the Muslims. So he asked those three and started to come back again to the lines, and he said, myself, which is Sayyidina Hamza, Ali bin Abi Talib, who is the cousin of the Prophet of Allah and Ubaydullah bin Harith, who is the fourth one, Ubayd bin Harith, who was the fourth one and the third one who fought there. And they were faced together. I mean, Sayyidina Hamza immediately, he was a strong fighter, so immediately it didn't take him any power, any effort to finish this. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib was also an aggressive person when it comes to the strong. I don't want to say aggressive. I want to say more strong and sturdy person. Sayyidina Ubaidah basically was the one who faced a bit some trouble, and he was hit during that. Basically, after the war, 5 days, I think he stood till he died, and he died as part of the Shuhada. The enormous thing is when you see the outnumbered, you see in front of you 313 people on one side, and you see over 1,000 people on the other side, and only 14 people, only 14 Shuhada of Badur. Basically,
on the other hand of the mushriks, how many died and how many?
70 of the mushrikeen were died,
70 have been captured.
and were prisoners of war.
POWs 70, casualties.
We can see on the screen the cemetery or the place these shuhada were buried in or at. So we can take a moment to pray on the souls of these shuhada. As we say in the Islam, Salamun alaykum dar qawmi mu'mineen antum sabiqun wa nahnu
We send our prayers already written on this stone here.
And I think those 14 martyrs of Islam, I think these are like the first ever. This brings out to the point where Islam wasn't just war and fighting and all that. I mean, these guys lost their lives early on. The thing is, Islam still stands strong today, not just because of the fight and war and all the phenomena that people just have misconceptions on Islam. So Islam was a religion of education, a religion of peace. And also, when it usually spreads out, as the Prophet of Allah usually does, as he did with Yemen and other areas around the Arabian Peninsula, and even in today, Indonesia and some other countries around the world, Islam was always spread with the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even before the time, Kisra, Qaisar, some of the kings of the world at the time of the Prophet,
Peace always surpassed
peace. So basically, he started with peace. So basically, this is Islam. I'm the messenger of Allah, and as the messenger of Allah, you were commanded to spread the word of Islam around. And basically, this is something we learned, that these 14 people did not go away.
It's not in vain. Their blood is not in vain.
Yeah, exactly.
I really want Dr. Rahid to put that point that you were telling me earlier.
Yes.
After you said the POWs, as you said, we can't go to the aftermath without discussing the POWs.
Yeah, sure. When the Prophet ﷺ captured 70 of these unbelievers, there was no law, there was no Islamic law about how to deal with them. So, and this is one thing is important what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. He used to ask his companion about their opinion, even if he is the Prophet ﷺ and he can ask Allah and he can give him and reveal whatever law.
Why is this? What is
This is to put this example for us, because we don't have revelation now. but we have shura, we have consultation amongst us. So I get in not necessarily democracy meaning I will take 50% against 50%. No, sometimes one person get a good idea and I will take it, but I have to be. The leader has to be so intelligent, educated, so he can choose. Yes, this is a good idea. This is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did when what's his name? The one who said to him about the Badur, it should be behind us, not in front of us.
I don't recall the name exactly.
Yes, I'll get his name in a minute. But he liked the idea, right? So one person's idea could save the whole army, which is the representative of the people nowadays, which MPs or whatever. They got ideas, they represent the whole people. I can't take the opinion of whatever 20 million person in a country, because not all of them will be aware of what is happening. So he took the ideas of a good person and he liked the idea and he asked the people, you like the idea? Although the Prophet ﷺ can get the idea from Allah. But he wanted to teach us that, okay, take the reason, build up, and then leave it to Allah after this.
But his cabinet was strong. I'm talking about today's term. His cabinet was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. His cabinet was Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu.
True,
you know,
true.
His cabinet,
they were strong. They were strong, and that's what Allah said. إن يكن منكم 20 صابرون يغلبوا ألفا. So 200, right? Then, as us, it's not going to be 1 to 100. It's going to be probably 1 to 10 if you're really strong in Iman, or 1 to 1 in the worst case. That's why you're right, absolutely right. Their faith is so strong that it's worth a lot.
But you were telling us earlier in the car that his cabinet were split, but they were united with his decision. How is that?
You take the opinion, you have your opinion, your colleague have another opinion, but once the leader sits for one opinion, everybody has to obey it.
I just want to elaborate on something here. See, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, when he came to Medina, obviously he became the ruler.
Absolutely.
I mean, he became the ruler, whether he's the religious ruler or he's like the powerful ruler who does this.
He was ruler on morality, on everything.
Basically, even though he was powerful, he gave the authority and appointed flag bearers for the Muhajirin, who was Mus'ab ibn Umayr at the time, for the Muhajirin, the people of Mecca, who came to Medina. And he also gave Hubab ibn Mundhir of Khazraji, is one of the tribes, which is Khazraj, is one of the tribes, also Khazraj. And he gave the third flag, or the third flag bearer, to Sa'd ibn Aus, Sa'd ibn Ubadah.
Yeah.
And basically, these were like divided to each of those to give them the rights to wage the wars, so they become teams within one team, rather than just we as the Muslims were just only the part of this war is only the Muhajirin. So he united them all under the same banner. So each one, he gave each one of those big tribes a banner, just to have them feel the power and feel the unity in that. So this was part of the intelligence of war, is to unite people even if they differ in decisions and differ in...
This is the psychological
And he also gathered information. He went around the campus and asked a Bedouin around the campus. He asked him, have you seen Quraysh? What is the situation? He said,
true intelligence,
so
not fake intelligence.
True intelligence.
Yeah, so basically we're talking about all the aspects of
war,
modern war
yes.
at that time. So going back again to the events of the battle, we stopped at the knights, 3 knights from each army stepping out to fight each other. And then what happened after the
What happened after that? The 3 Muslims killed the 3 unbelievers, and then the war started. Right in the beginning, Quraysh was having the upper hand, and they were still enthusiasm, and they tried to push a Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ warned them before that don't use your use weapon until it's on sight, not out of sight. If you see your weapon is not going to reach your enemy, don't use it, don't waste it.
No wasting of resources.
No wasting of your resources. Don't use your sword until you see the person next to you.
There's something also tricky. I mean, when I say war is also a ground of tricks. I think something intelligent the Prophet ﷺ has put into this war is basically that the well of Badur was the water source. People came from Mecca long distance away. People came from Medina from long distance away. Even the Muslims were fasting. But he had stronghold of the wells. That was key number one. Key number two is as soon as the people of Mecca came in, he knew that they were going to go for the well. So he put archmen around the well. So as soon as the people came close to that well, they start arching them with archers.
Everybody was coming through and being killed except somebody, was the Hakim ibn Huzam, who embraced Islam later. So also Sa'd ibn Mu'adh asked the Prophet ﷺ to build, or ask him, or get his permission to build a stone shed for the leadership, so he can be there. And he told them, suppose that we win, that's all right, you will be sitting in that shed. But if it's the other one, he doesn't even want. He's polite to say to the Prophet ﷺ, even if we lose. He said, if it's the other one, meaning if we lose, then you will be safe.
Well, we're talking about all these events in the battle and the incidents related to the battle. How can we relate that time with this time? I mean, we're practically sitting at the side of the battlefield. How can we relate? I mean, I only see buildings, and the director is telling me that there is a mosque and there is the battlefield behind us. What are the most famous landmarks in this area?
I think the well of Badur is one of the known locations, basically, that we should also remember.
Masjid al-Arish.
Masjid al-Arish is another masjid, and also the Shuhada of Badur. This is where the site of graves of martyrs of Badur. But I mean, just regarding the war we're talking about today's world and all that good stuff, let's talk about the Prophet of Allah. He's the one who's basically has given us this moral part. People think that the Prophet ﷺ was sitting in the tent, not doing anything. He was protected. He was like in the back of the army. And we want to talk about the Prophet of Allah ﷺ. Always in every war, he was like the frontiers of the
army. War, almost everything.
Everything.
He was more than just a spiritual leader, a moral leader. He was a leader. Period.
A teacher.
Yeah, and he was always there. He was always on the front line.
Father, and his parents. It was everything.
Sahaba used to say, we protect our back by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we fear, we go to him. So he's just like the father, the father of the Muslims. You go to him whenever you have some trouble.
Absolutely, and he's there. Not only that, he's always, his central command is front line. His central command is not somewhere that we don't know. It's there. He's with the people, around the people, always taking their advice and giving advice, and then taking the final decision. Am I correct on that?
And also, after taking the final decision, the Prophet ﷺ, during the battle, raised his hand towards Allah so severely that Abu Bakr was saying, Allah will grant you the victory. Don't do that yourself. Until his clothes fell off his shoulder from lifting his arms, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you take all these reasons, you take all these plans, but still you need to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Absolutely.
As a leader, as an individual, he is praying for himself and for the rest of the Muslims.
And I think this war basically is the reason where Meccans, after the war and the big loss they have grieved over their deaths. I mean, they had 70 who died, 70 were POWs. And they grieved really hard because this was like, see, Quraysh is a very strong tribe in the Arabian Peninsula. It's one of the strongest, actually, tribe in the Arabian Peninsula.
The strongest.
Is the strongest, actually. And losing a war like this to 300 people is basically like a shame to them. They were really grieving it, whether for the deaths who died in the loved ones who died in the battle, or even those powerful people who thought that they were beaten. And this was like something part of their arrogance. And I think a scenario comes later on that Uhud, as we're going to as if you come to the area from Medina Munawwara, the Battle of Uhud is also another scenario. And I think
we'll cover that.
I really don't want to finish this program without actually enlightening us on everything in Islam is educational. 23 years, according to my understanding, every revelation was a teaching. It was not just our constitution, the Holy Quran.
Yes.
Over 23 years, it was teaching us something. And Badr was another class, an open class, if I may say so.
It's a main. And
What would we really learn from this whole
we
thing?
learned a lot. For example, back to your question about these 70 captures, and the Prophet ﷺ didn't have a law to what to do with them. So when he doesn't have a law, he gets a consultation from his companion, close companion. With this, I have to stress on this. Not anybody can give you a consultation. Where did he get the consultation from?
For those who know.
Abu Bakr and Umar. And who are they? This is the first and second Khalif. So he took it. He got through their consultation. What is your opinion, Abu Bakr? He said, we'll let them free for some resume of money, right?
Some ransom.
Ransom of, yeah. So, and Umar was saying, no, we kill them. And everybody kill his relative. So you don't get revenge from other.
Why is that? Yeah,
because if I kill my brother, nobody's going to kill me because he's my brother.
This tribal thing that they stopped.
Everybody, yes.
We don't want the Medinians, we want you.
Yes, everybody kill his own relatives.
Even the rules and regulations of dealing with POWs was not even established at the time. Even
No,
after.
it was revealed in that situation.
Okay.
It was revealed on that battlefield, Surah Al-Anfal. Its surah was all about the Battle of Badr. These 70 few verses all were about a Battle of Badr. It's stating the disadvantage first before the advantage. It's stating the mistakes the Muslim has done before the advantage they have done. Because we are a religion of truth and we need to advise people. Before I tell you what is your advantage, I tell you what is your disadvantage. So when I tell you what is your disadvantage or drawbacks, you try to correct it and overcome this and become pure and perfect. So the 70 people who were captured, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, asked Abu Bakr, asked Umar, get those opinions, and he went with the opinion of Abu Bakr, which is leave them for some money.
They didn't build prisons, did he? No, they didn't bring like,
So let's start torturing these prisoners of war in their feet.
No torture at all. And if you remind me, I'll tell you a story about torturing. No taking revenge. These 70 people, what to do with them? Either kill them or they will give money in return for their life.
And he even, I guess he even allowed some of the men who didn't have any money.
Well, that's exactly what happened is the surah was revealed, the verse was revealed about this and said, prisoner of war, you should not take money for that. But he already made the decision. And Allah was giving him a hint before that about this exchange. But from now on, no money in return of lives. But for these 70, the one who has wealth, he could give money, he let him free for money. The one who doesn't, or the one who is educated, he can teach 10 Muslims how to read and write. And among these people, there were the people who write the Quran. So has been taught by kuffar. Unbeliever can teach you. There is nothing wrong with you getting a teacher who's a non-Muslim. I think that he's not teaching you in his field. Exactly. His field is writing and reading. He doesn't teach you anything else regarding religion, for example. So he took everyone who can participate in this. He can teach 10 Muslims how to read and write. And you can learn this, and Dr. Ahmed this is his field, education. You get, why is 10 people? Why is not 20, for example?
Right.
It would be even better to teach more, but 10.
Student to professor ratio. Does it even have some problems with their classes?
Not only it's student ratio, it's the two-way relationship between the teacher and the learner.
To be more effective, basically.
And that was prison at that time? I mean,
it was in prison. By the way, these prisoners
They were free, they walked.
They were free and they were being treated very nicely. The Prophet ﷺ told his companion, treat them nicely. And you know that the Muslims at that time were not rich, so they can barely find their food. And they split the food. They used to eat the dates, the Muslim, and give them the bread. And the bread is more efficient than the dates.
and were these
More expensive.
And more expensive. And you can feel...
It is more expensive. They didn't have water. They didn't have anything.
So they treat them very well to the extent that many of these captured embraced Islam later in one stage or another of their life. So
I just want to pull out a bit on this, and I think we're something I always kept in mind, even though me and Dr. Raghid and even Dr. Ahmed was with us when we visited Al-Ula, as an example. It's one of the also areas of Medina Munawwara. We go there in grievance, in fear that this area was a punishment area, even for you to visit there. But for those who come to Badur, here's the recommendation. Come and enjoy yourself here. This is where victory was held. Here where Islam was bright. Here where the angels came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give the word for Muslims in the world. So.
I didn't enjoy both because I'm thousands feet up. When I'm going down, I would enjoy it more.
Inshallah. Well, talking about the angels descending from the sky, some of the very famous incidents took place in relation to this incident. Angels coming down from sky. What can you tell us about it, Doctor?
Angels coming down from the sky has been reported